And I am live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon, riding solo again. Elijah is going to have family matters to take care of. But nonetheless, I am here to host MMA Renegade Podcast, Episode 8, covering UFC Vegas 28, Jazeer Rozenstruik versus Augusto Sakai. Also on the docket is Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul news. And fighters pay a little bit too. Off that Jake Paul and Woodley, we're going to talk about that as well. So yeah, that's the show listing to today, man. It's Sunday. It is hot. It's about 80 degrees or so outside. It's super hot. I'm sweating. I got a napkin here just to wipe myself off. And you're gonna hear maybe an AC in the background. People walking around because it's super hot outside in New York. But nonetheless, we are here to do this show. And next week we have UFC 263. We're going to do a show on Sunday recapping UFC 263. Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards. Where I have Nate Diaz winning that fight. I'm picking it now. Davis Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. You have Israel Adesanya versus Marlon Vettori, which is really picking up steam and really getting a lot of attention now. It seems like. It's interesting. Before we go to the UFC Vegas 28 thing, and if you're watching, thank you for watching. Please comment in the section. Just your thoughts on UFC 263 and UFC Vegas 28. It seems like this card is picking up a lot of steam. Like it's trending. I think more towards that 7,000 mark, which we touched upon before. Israel Adesanya is a star already. Then you have Nate Diaz on the card as well. It just makes it even bigger. And it seems like Marlon Vettori is becoming a great foil for Israel Adesanya. Like Marlon Vettori as the B side to this fight, he's really coming on and really helping promote this card and making people we want to see if he could do it. That fight, I would think the first fight was more Israel Adesanya, split decision, questionable. One judge had it for Marlon Vettori, but it was a split decision. That's the closest that Israel Adesanya ever has come to in the UFC towards getting a loss. And Marlon Vettori is letting people know, hey, listen, I almost beat you, and I took you down. And I love that he's also using Israel Adesanya's last fight, John Blachowicz, and how he was able to control Israel Adesanya to create doubt that Israel Adesanya can't handle Marlon Vettori on the ground, or Israel Adesanya can't keep up with Marlon Vettori on the ground, and that Marlon Vettori could just smother him. So, and that's an interesting aspect to that fight. Again, me and Elijah talk about all the time is story. But UFC pay-per-views for promotion, one of the things that you need, not just matchups, is a good story. And I think Marlon Vettori versus Israel Adesanya has that story of, is Israel Adesanya weak on the ground? Can Marlon Vettori exploit that? Can Marlon Vettori take Israel Adesanya to the ground, and what would happen after that? I think that's an interesting dynamic to that fight, and I think people are like, now there was hype for it before, but I feel like now the last week or so, it's become more and more attention going towards this fight, and I can't wait to see this fight. So me and Elijah will do a recap show the day after, Sunday, 10 o'clock, like this now, and I'll leave in the comment section. After this or the description section, sorry. And yeah, I want you guys to join the show too. So if you would like to come in the show at 10 o'clock next Sunday and discuss UFC 263 with us, we'll have you in the queue, lined up in our waiting section in this stream, and we'll have you talk about UFC 263 with us. You could give your own input, your own thoughts on the card, on particular fights if you want. So I'll leave my email in the description after this video, and we could discuss, what parts of the preview you thought was interesting and what you want to come and talk about. So I will do that later. But what's up, Clyde? How you doing? I did the muscle up emoji. Good to see you, man. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. The month of June is going to be an interesting time for combat sports in general. You have the UFC yesterday, of course, but you have Logan Paul and Mayweather today on a Sunday of all times. You have YouTubers versus TikTokers. You have former basketball players versus musical artists. You have reality TV stars fighting each other. You have a legit UFC mega card happening next week. You have Anderson Silva fighting boxing against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Julio Cesar Chavez versus Hector Camacho. There's so many like crazy, unbelievable, you would not believe would happen in 2020, but here we are happening this month, which is good for us. We have content to talk about, but it's also good for you guys. You have stuff to you have a legit variety of different things going on that will be talked about for the years to come. I believe so. It's definitely an interesting time in combat sports in general. And Flash Plus today, he's doing well. Good to see. I'm glad to hear, man. I'm glad to hear. Glad to hear, man. Definitely, Flat. If you are interested, I think you have my email. Definitely let me know after the card. Shoot me an email. I'll leave my email again in the description. What parts of the card of UFC 263 would you want to talk about? We'll do it in segments. We'll do, main event, co-main event, and then, so on and so forth. So we could plan that out beforehand, so we could have you come in seamlessly through the show. So definitely want to have you on. Anybody else that want to join as well. But yeah, man, I'm ready to get the show going. Again, it's super hot outside. I want to just relax and chill all day and catch up on some things. So yeah, let's get into it, right? UFC Vegas 28 goes down yesterday in the UFC Apex Center. Jazier Rozenstruik versus Augusto Sakai in the main event, heavyweight clash between these two. Jazier Rozenstruik seemingly trying to get back into title contention after his loss to Francis Ngannou. Augusto Sakai is another up-and-coming heavyweight that's trying to crack into the top 5 as well. This fight pretty much played out like I thought it would. I think Jazier Rozenstruik is a good fighter. Sometimes he starts a little bit slow because he tries to feel his opponents out. He's more of a counter fighter. Waits for his opponent to throw, and then he'll throw something, or vice versa. Maybe sometimes he'll move a little bit forward and but not do much with it. And sometimes he like the last. It's weird because like he had a thing, and I don't know if this is this the his IQ of just fighting and stuff like and everything like that, but he had a thing where the last seconds he'll put it on. If you notice the Overeem fight, and then this one, it seems like the last couple of seconds he'll just let his hands go, and then that's the end of the round or whatever. But it works out for him because he actually lets his hands go, and he has power. He has knockout power, and he was able to go to the body against Augusto Sakai and land over the top to end the round and finished him. At first, I thought it was a bad stoppage, but then I looked at Augusto Sakai's eye. If you looked at his right side of his eye, you see the cut over the eyelid, and then that to me solidified that even if the fight was to go on and Herb Dean wouldn't have stopped it, the doctor probably would have stopped it as well. So it was a good stoppage, which we really give Herb Dean credit nowadays for his stoppages and stuff like that. But it's actually a really good stoppage. Yeah, Jazier Rozenstruik won this fight. There's not really much to say about this. It was much of a feel-out process for the beginning of the fight, and then, Jazier Rozenstruik's work to go into the body, the last combinations going from the body and going over the top of the head, glancing blow, knocks out Augusto Sakai, and Jazier Rozenstruik wins again, is on a 2-fight winning streak. I believe he knocked out Junior Dos Santos before, and now he's knocked out Augusto Sakai. So it seems like he's on the path to getting back into title contention. That heavyweight division is a little bit cluttered because you have Francis Ngannou possibly fighting Derek Lewis. I don't know if that's confirmed or not yet. It seems like they're trying to move away from John Jones, even though the public demand is to have John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. That's the mega fight. And then you have Oh no. So okay, so I'm wrong. I'm sorry. So his last fight was a loss to Cyril Gane. I forgot that happened this year. But it was that fight was He says, yeah, he seems to be see a red at the end of the round. Biggie Boy's opponent staggered while getting up, so he definitely got stung. Yeah, I think so too. And plus the cut over his eyelid, I doubt they'll let him continue after that cut. So I think the doctors would have stepped in and stopped it anyway. So I think it was a good stoppage. Again, Herb Dean, we rag on Herb Dean a lot, sometimes rightfully so for his stoppages and how he does things. But this was actually a really good stoppage. But yeah, he definitely seems to turn red, and I don't know if that's just plans of, okay, it's the last minute of the round, I'm gonna let my hands go a little bit, or it's just him just going out and doing things. But I would lean more towards the a planned, hey, this is the last minute of the round, I'm gonna let my hands go a little bit, and since I'm winning on points, which I think is good. But yeah, I thought, because in a Cyril Gane fight, now I'm thinking about the Cyril Gane fight, it was pretty much them both filling each other out, and it wasn't really an eventful heavyweight fight. I think Cyril Gane just won on points. And maybe if Jesse Rosenstruck let his hands go or found better combinations, he would have won that fight. But nonetheless, heavyweight division, you have Curtis Blades is still up there, even after his loss with Derek Lewis. Alexander Volkov versus Gane is happening. So Jesse Rosenstruck is kind of trying to find his way back to that title contention. I think the fight that makes sense would be a Curtis Blades versus Jesse Rosenstruck. See how Curtis Blades again try to deal with a striker, a heavy hitter. This one will be a little interesting because again, Jesse Rosenstruck he's a little bit more reserved and waits for you to do things, and counter with it. And then for Curtis Blades has his wrestling, but he also sometimes he falls in love with his wrestling too much, where he leaves himself open to some shots as well. So that's an interesting matchup. May even be possibly a boring fight, if we're being honest, because we're gonna have a lot of spilling each other out, a lot of trying to figure things in the fight. But I think that is the right matchup: Cyril Gane versus Curtis Blades. No, not Cyril Gane. Sorry, Jose Rosenstruck versus Curtis Blades. I was thinking if Cyril Gane was to lose, then that would probably be the Curtis Blades fight. But for now, I would say Jose Rosenstruck versus Curtis Blades is the fight to make. And if possibly if Volkov beats Cyril Gane, then possibly do Rosenstruck versus Volkov would be next. That'd probably be a better matchup wise, is to have Volkov and Jesse Rosenstruck fight each other, and then have Cyril Gane, if he was to lose, fight Curtis Blades. But we'll wait and see. But I think those are better matchups afterwards than Curtis Blades and Rosenstruck fighting. I think that would be a pretty boring fight, if I'm being honest. So that was the fight. Augustus Sakai, I don't really know where he goes from here. He's ranked, I believe, in the rank number 9. Rank number 9. So maybe you give Marcin Tybura, is a great segue to this, beats Walt Harris by TKO in the first round. I really feel bad for Walt Harris. There's everybody's daughter and everything like that, and how tragic that is. And it seems like ever since then, he's just been trying to get back on track. Before that, before the whole tragedy and everything like that, Walt Harris was somebody that was really surging up the rankings and possibly being a contender. He just runs into some bad luck, and of course the tragedy is just a completely horrible thing. But I thought he did well in the first couple of parts of the round. It just seems like for Walt Harris, and Marcin Tybura takes down to the ground. But before that, Walt Harris was doing really, really good. I liked his punches. He was moving. He was, I think he was throwing knees. He was doing everything right. But I think the problem with Walt Harris is not his cardio, which I think Bisping or Dominic Cruz brought up multiple times in the thing that he was trying to work on. I never thought that was the issue for Walt Harris. What the issue for Walt Harris for me was, once he has you hurt, he just there's no pause, right? There's no I'm gonna pause and wait to see how I follow this up, or I'm gonna wait and try to find the right shots to put you down. It's I'm gonna jump on you and try to hurt you and finish you. And what we see is that these heavyweights are able to weather the storm, like a Overeem, a great example of Marcin Tybura, who also has grappling. Where they can weather the storm and will get you in a compromised position where you're blowing yourself up from throwing these shots to try to knock him out, and he's able to get you down to the ground and smother you and then finish you. I think that's more of that's his problem. His problem is not his. I don't think his problem really is his cardio per se. I think his problem is the fact that he tries to unload and try to finish opponents in a way where if he takes a step back and precisely look for shots or like he did leading up to him getting hurt, he could probably find a better way of finishing him and use less energy. I think he has the power, he has the athleticism, he has the speed, but I think the cardio could be there. I think the issue is just that he just unloads and just tries to just finish opponents and he just probably just do better with just hurt. Yes, hurt them, but also get you what got to you hurting them, and that's slowly picking them apart and then finding that right shot. If that makes sense. I think a lot of yesterday, if he probably would look back at the tape and think, man, if I didn't unload and just throw these shots, and just take my time and maybe go to the body a little bit or go to the legs or slowly creep in there, I would have found a better way of knocking him out and probably would have did it seamlessly. But I thought he had Marcin Tybura hurt, and I thought he probably was going to win the fight. And then once I seen him just unload and just blow the gas tank, just trying to knock Marcin Tybura out, I thought it was over. And once he got into the ground, I said, okay, this is it. Which is unfortunate because I like Will Harris. But that's something that I think he has to go back and look at and try to correct. It's just, yes, I have the power to hurt you, I have the speed to hurt you, but how am I going to do it? There's better ways to do it where I'm not compromised and I can still keep you at distance where you're not able to grab a hold of me and trip me or anything like that, and I can slowly push you away. I think he has the speed, the power to keep up with these heavyweights and become a contender. For Marcin Tybura, again, he's somebody that was I think was outside the rankings. Now he's back in the rankings. Maybe even been out the UFC for a hot minute, but he's somebody that's slowly found his way back to the UFC rankings and back possibly into the top 10. Within the top 10, close to the top 5. Again, for him, maybe Augusto Sakai would be the fight. Will Harris was number 8, so I think they're going to probably trade places. I would see Will Harris going down the card, the rankings. And yes, it's interesting to see what Marcin Tybura is what's going to do next. I still think there are a couple of things he needs to do in order to be a top contender in the heavyweight division, but we don't have that much, The contenders have already fought each other, and they're going to fight each other again. So I guess he's a fresh matchup for these guys. Somebody that has worked his way back into the rankings. So we'll see. But I just feel for Will Harris, honestly. I wonder where he goes from here, or whether he can correct that mistake. Other fights on the card that I thought was really good or had a good performance. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Miguel Baiza. I'm saying the name correct. Santiago Ponzinibbio lost his fight to Jin Liang, I believe his name is Leash. I was wondering where Ponzinibbio was going to go from there. And for the first part of the fight, the first round at least, I thought Baiza was doing a really good job. Of attacking the legs and catching Santiago Ponzinibbio off balance a lot of times. I thought Santiago Ponzinibbio's legs would be done by the second round, but Santiago Ponzinibbio showed his heart and his grit, and he was able to tough it out. And as the fight progressed, he was able to land more and more on Baiza. I thought the key was that I thought for the first round or so he was just throwing the jab, and then in the second round, the third round, he was just following it up. So it was a jab, and I'm gonna go 1-2. I'm gonna go 1-2. I'm gonna 1-2-3. Going to the body, hitting his own leg kicks, checking the leg kicks later on in the fight. I thought he really did a good job turning it around, and really made it into a dogfight. Because Baiza was going to slow down either. And I think this was the fight that Santiago Ponzinibbio needed to get his confidence back after this loss and after the time away from the UFC because of injuries and stuff that plagued him. But I think this was a really good rebound and a really good recharge for him to kind of get his feelings back and possibly get back into the top 15 to top 10. Because at one point we were talking about Santiago Ponzinibbio as somebody that could possibly be a contender. Santiago Ponzinibbio was on a roll, and it seemed the injuries he took, or the stuff that happens outside the UFC, illnesses, stuff like that, kind of set him back. And then the Yang fight again, that was a bad showing. But it seems like this one he kind of got that fire back in the second round. He got that fire back, and I think this will help his confidence grow moving forward. Where Santiago Ponzinibbio goes from here, I don't know. I don't know if they throw him right back into the rankings, fighting a ranked opponent, or they give him one more fight before fighting somebody in the rankings. So it's interesting to see what they do with that. But again, Santiago Ponzinibbio was somebody that I think Elijah, honestly, if he was, he probably would tell himself. I think Elijah was touting Santiago Ponzinibbio a lot back in our old review. Before we did the whole, this format, but when we were doing recaps, I think Elijah was touting Santiago Ponzinibbio a lot of being the next title contender. And it's interesting to see where, Usman and Ponzinibbio, because they were both like there in terms of like the next stars of the welterweight division. And, Usman went to be, welterweight champion, possibly being a star. And Santiago Ponzinibbio is outside the rankings, and now he's starting to find his fire, and hopefully, he gets his footing back and he becomes a contender again. So, good for him. Good for him. It seemed like that fight was the fight he needed to get that fire in him to, yes, I can still be a contender in this weight class, and I can still have all the tools to do it. So that was good. Other fights on the card I thought it was interesting. Martina De La Rosa versus Irene Lipski, winning by TKO. She continues to surge up the 125 division. I thought who else here? Sean Woodson versus Yusuf Zalal was a good technical fight. It's interesting to see Sean Woodson, a tall, lanky featherweight, against these other featherweights. I think he has the tools to be interesting. The takedown defense was really, really good. It's interesting to see because he has the striking, he has the hands. We have to see, and the cardio too. I thought the cardio was good to this fight. I think the last fight against I think it was Julian Erosa, he slowed down after a while. But I thought Yusuf Zalal kept trying to take him down. It was a grueling fight, and he was able to weather the storm. They had 6 takedown defense in the third round, and I think she's showing his growth as a fighter. And I thought he did a great job of weathering the storm early from Yusuf Zalal, getting taken down and using a lot of pressure. It was able to bounce back and land on him. So good for Sean Woodson. And another fight I thought was good on this card was Manon Farut beating Tabitha Rishi. I hope I'm saying that name. I hope I'm not butchering it, but 125-pound division. That lady, Manon, is really, really good. And my wish is that they slowly bring her along in the flyweight division. Valentina Shevchenko is a dominant champion, and we have there's literally nobody I think could really beat her right now. And I think for somebody like Manute, I would slowly bring up the speed on the division and slowly bring her up the card. And I think she could be a main player in the 125. She has power. She has the speed. She absolutely decimated Tabitha. It's interesting to see where she goes from here. I think she's somebody to look out for the foreseeable future as a legit threat to that flyweight title. Which again, we have not been saying anybody's a legit threat to that flyweight title since Valentina Shevchenko has it. So the fact that they're slowly finding contenders and finding prospects in this 125 division is really, really good. And we'll see where we'll go from this. She's somebody definitely to look out for in this coming future. Overall, and you guys could give you a rating for this card as well. I thought this was a solid B pay-per-view. I mean, pay-per-view. B fight night. Some solid fights on there. Some great prospects to look out for. I thought the main event was what it was. Doesn't really stroke, does what he does, and does what he should have done. And beats Augusto Sakai, and now possibly fighting somebody in the top 5. Montana De La Rosa had a great performance at 125 division. Anand Farouk, 125. Again, I'm hoping I'm saying that name right. A great performance. She's somebody that is going to be a huge prospect in this division. Sean Woodson, good performance. I thought this was like a good, solid card. What sucks is that there was other fights on this card that you had Tom Breeze versus Antonio Arroyo. Tom Breeze was ruled out, and I don't know what the issue was. They didn't say. Maka Patola versus Dusko Churudovic. That was the original fight before Patola got hurt. You had Amanda Ribas versus Angela Hill was supposed to be on this fight card originally. So there's a lot of other things that probably would have upped this card a little bit. But I think you know what, Vlad, I think I agree with you. I think a B- is fair. I think a B- is a fair grade for this card. There's some good fights on there. There's good performances. I think a B- is more accurate than a B, if I'm being honest. It was a good card. It was something to watch. It was something to watch. There's some fights you can go back and watch, like the Sean Woodson versus Justin Salal fight, Manute win over Tabitha. But it was a solid B- card. So that's that. That's UFC Vegas 28, guys. And now we go to our news portion of the show. So I believe it was Wednesday. When it was announced that Jake Paul will be fighting Tyron Woodley. Now, I did not think Jake Paul would fight Tyron Woodley. I didn't think he would fight until after this fight with Logan Paul. I thought he would wait to see what Logan Paul and Mayweather what happened with that. Mayweather wins, and then you have Jake Paul avenge his brother and fight Mayweather. I thought that would be the logical next step, right? To my surprise, Jake Paul says, you know what? I don't want to wait. I'm going to fight again soon. I'm going to fight in August. And he chose Tyron Woodley, which I thought was very interesting. One, you already have the dynamic of Tyron Woodley trying to avenge his fallen comrade, his brother, and Ben Askren, his teammate. So you have that storyline. You have the storyline of we see the clip, we've seen it before, of Tyron Woodley and seeing Jake Paul and his crew, and they're talking before the Ben Askren fight, and they're, for lack of a better term, disrespecting Tyron Woodley a little bit. And like, you already have Tyron Woodley, who is not a UFC fighter right now, who I think he is out of the rankings, I believe. Out of the rankings. I think he's doing broadcast work for the UFC now. And he's pretty much, his MMA career is pretty much done as it stands right now. So what better way for Tyron Woodley to, cash in on who he is and his legacy than to fight, a Jake Paul in a boxing match and probably make the biggest payday of his entire career and ride to the sunset. This on all levels. I didn't think. I originally thought that a Nick Diaz fight with Jake Paul would make more sense, just because of the star power of Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz has nobody to fight. UFC wouldn't give him a fight, so why not give Nick Diaz a fight that could set him up and he could have his fight and round to the sunset or whatever. But Jake Paul goes with Tyron Woodley. I think the bigger thing out of this, and honestly, I don't know. I've learned not to doubt Jake Paul. Logic would tell you that Tyron Woodley, he's been training. If he's an MMA fighter, but he has trained boxing. I think he trains. I believe it's like the Wild Card Boxing Academy or something like that. I don't know, something like that. He's been training there for a while. And I would think Tyron Woodley. I think he has more striking ability than Ben Askren. I'm pretty confident saying that. Although Tyron Woodley is also older, and we've seen in the last couple of fights that he seems the lesser version of what he was before because he's older and he's fought a lot. So I don't know. Jake Paul, I just learned not doubt him. It'll be very interesting if Jake Paul beats Tyron Woodley, and credit to Jake Paul for taking this fight in the first place. He could have took anybody in the world. He could have took Dylan Dennis. He could have took anybody. But I think Tyron Woodley is a scary guy, a scary matchup, and somebody that has power, has knockout power. We've seen in the UFC. We'll see how he does the boxing. So I think that's a great step up in competition from Ben Askren to Tyron Woodley. Please tell me if you agree, Flathead, or anybody in the chat. If you like the matchup, don't like the matchup. But I thought it was a good pick for Jake Paul, a great fight for Tyron Woodley, and we'll see what happens on August 28th. But I think the bigger story in all of this is Jake Paul, and this is why the title. Thank you, Jake Paul. Thank you. This is my thank you, public thank you to Jake Paul. Is because Jake Paul is doing something very interesting, which he doesn't have to do. He didn't have to do this at all. He could have, made his money, fought whoever, and that's that. But he's doing something very interesting, and this is not the first time he's done this. He's actually stepping up and speaking about fighters' pay in the UFC, in the MMA in general, but specifically the UFC. He's been speaking about fighters' pay and how fighters in the UFC are, they are the attraction, they are the stars, and yet they see a small percentage of the money that the UFC gets. Which, thank you to Jake Paul, because I would not think Jake Paul would be the one to say that and to be public about it. Something that me and Elijah has talked about constantly on the show is that we advocate for more fighters' pay, we advocate for more fighters' negotiation, we advocate for more fighters having more piece of the pie than what they're getting now. I believe an article came out earlier this week with Charles Oliveira. It talked about how, his performance of the night bonus that he got 50K. He's only seeing a small percentage of that. We include in having to convert that to from US to his currency, paying the trainers and everything like that. He sees a small percentage of that. Maybe I think he even said maybe even 10. From 50,000 to actually 10,000 or 15,000, which is crazy. And we tout the performance of the night bonuses, but that was interesting to see that. I don't really like him illustrate. I don't really make that much out of the bonuses, and I'm still not able to live comfortably yet. I still have to worry about my financial income and stuff. And he's a lightweight champion of the world. He's been in the UFC for a long time. He's literally grew up in the UFC. We've seen Charles Oliveira, before our eyes, go from a featherweight to a lightweight, and to being not a contender, to being a top 15 guy, to being a top 10 guy, to being a top 5 guy. We've seen this evolution of Charles Oliveira. And for somebody that's been fighting as long as he has in the UFC, for somebody that is a UFC champion now, for him to say, I'm not even comfortable yet, and I can't even live comfortable yet in my life. I still have to worry about my income. That was very, very bold of Charles Oliveira to say, and I appreciate his honesty. But it shows a glaring problem in just fighters' pay, and if you're not the top guy, you're like, it's not a lavish lifestyle. It's not a great lifestyle, and they should be getting more of the pie. Even the guys that's the tippy top, like a John Jones or a who else? Jorge Masvidal is another example. There are guys that have, or Nick Diaz. There are guys that have bled, that have paid the price, that have given their all to this game, and they still have to beg for a raise or have to beg for more money, what they're worth, or or like John Jones is the greatest of all time. I've said it before in past episodes. John Jones is the greatest of all time, and he still can't even get his money. And he's on his legs of his career. So I thought it was very, 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 very interesting, and I'm glad that Jake Paul is taking the stance that he has, and it's publicly with his platform and how big of a star he is, for now saying, look over there. They're not making this much. This Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren has to come over to fight me. Will you guys clown and say I'm a YouTuber, I'm a guy, I'm this, I'm a that, I'm a douchebag, stuff like that. But yet I'm giving them the biggest payday of their life. Tyron Woodley, a former UFC champion, 5-time world champion, and his biggest payday is not with the UFC, who is the biggest promotion in the world, that owns the MMA world and community. He didn't get as much money as he's getting now as the UFC champion, fighting in Madison Square Garden, this and that. No, he's making the most payday with me, and I'm going to set him up for the rest of his life, set his kids for the rest of his life. I thought that to me is very, very interesting, and I say thank you to Jake Paul, whether he wins the fight, loses the fight, or whatever, for giving fighters and for advocating for fighters pay, one, and for two, for again, Ben Askren, biggest payday of his career. Tyron Woodley, biggest payday of his career. Who knows who will fight next? Who knows what he'll do next? But it's creating a different lane for MMA fighters to cash in on their name. I think Brian Kelleher, UFC bantamweight, talked about, is there a YouTuber out there that wants to fight, that wants to fight or whatever, so I don't have to end my career and have to work a part-time job at Walmart. Like, that shit's real. That shit is real. That shit is real. That's fighters should get more piece of the pie. And it seems like fighters are unable to have the power to step up and save for themselves, or feel hopeless, or just trying to get by. And props to Jake Paul for his platform, being able to step up and say something, and for giving Tyron Woodley again his biggest payday ever, which is crazy to me, but his biggest payday ever. Tyron Woodley's kids will thank Tyron Woodley, of course, but Jake Paul for this fight, which is crazy. And Showtime too. Shout out to Showtime. Flat Pasta said, yeah, props to Jake Paul. Listen, I'm not. Here's honesty, because it's just me and you guys here, or me and you, Flat, or viewers watching. Like, I get the disdain for Jake Paul in the way that he can come up obnoxious, and I think there has been things in the past that he's done. But I can't fault him anymore. I can't. I'm not on the bandwagon of F Jake Paul and stuff like that. Now, I think he needs to be careful how he moves around. I think he needs to have his head on a swivel to how he talks to some of these fighters outside of boxing. But I think that what he's doing is actually really, really good, and I'm glad he's doing it. And I can't hate on him. I can't, I can't have dislike or one. I don't even know him personally, but two, what he's actually doing is a really, really good thing. It's opened a lot of avenues for other people. Like, again, this is a great, coming full circle. What I talked about earlier. This month is going to be the craziest month I have ever seen. Again, you have a legit UFC pay-per-view happening this month and next week, which would be dominating the headlines, it seems like, right? But no, you have Logan Paul versus Mayweather tonight on a Sunday, which generally it's on a Saturday, but it's on a Sunday, which shows the times are changing. You have a basketball player fighting a musical artist. You have reality TV stars fighting. You have YouTubers versus the TikTokers, which I am going to watch. I'm going to watch YouTubers versus TikTokers. I don't know why I do this to myself, but that interests me. $60 if you want to see it. You have Anderson Silva getting into boxing. You have other, these weird fights that you never thought you would see, and maybe that spins off of Conor McGregor versus Mayweather. But I think Jake Paul and Logan Paul have pushed the boundaries for these fights to happen, and whether for right or wrong, they have given a platform and have given opportunities to people that may have not had an opportunity before to cash in on their name and to make as much money as they can. In this era where people crave content and want to see special things, they have done a great job of pushing forward different avenues of call it money grabs, call it whatever, but they're creating opportunities for people that maybe didn't have an opportunity before, like a Tyron Woodley, like a Ben Askren, who are fighters that have been world champions that are now getting the biggest payday of their life. So again, thank you to Jake Paul for I guess pushing the boundaries for combat sports, which sounds crazy, but he is. So thank you, Jake Paul. Thank you. From somebody from the MMA community that covers boxing as well. Thank you. So yeah, that is pretty much it on the docket. Will we be back next Sunday to cover UFC 263, which I'm excited about? You have, again, one of the best flyweight title fights of all time. With Brandon Moreno versus Figueiredo. You have Nate Diaz returning Nate Diaz, which, again, likelihood Leon Edwards wins. But I say never, and I learned not to doubt Nate Diaz. And then you have Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori, which, again, has picked up steam and has a story to it. And I think Marvin Vettori he may not, I don't know if he wins or not, but I think I like his chances. I think Marvin Vettori is somebody that can push forward, that will make it a chess match for Israel Adesanya to try to get distance and land his shots. I think it's a very good fight for both guys, and I'm interested to see who wins. If Vettori beats Adesanya, it has major ramifications because I think it stops the John Blachowicz fight. Stopped Israel Adesanya's momentum a little bit. If Vettori beats Israel Adesanya, I think it sets Israel Adesanya back a little bit more. And I wonder if his star power dwindles a little bit after this as well. So we'll see. But that's today's show. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. Again, we'll be back next week. And I'll leave my actually, you know what? Actually, I'm going to do a show on Saturday because the PFL is on Saturday. I think the Bellator is on Saturday. So I'll be doing a show on Saturday. And so I'll leave my information there. I'll give more details as to how you guys can come on the show next week to discuss UFC 263. And we'll do it that way. So on Saturday, I'm going to go do a stream on Saturday covering PFL and Bellator. And then I'll also give instruction and everything like that for UFC 263 for you guys to come on and join. I want to get you guys feedback. I want to have you guys on, and I would love to get your thoughts as well, and you guys be a part of the show. So greatly appreciate it. Sorry. So signing off. I hope you guys have a nice day. It's Sunday. Where I'm at, it's super hot outside. Hopefully you guys are more chill, and we'll see you guys. I'll see you guys on Saturday, and we'll see you. Me and Elijah will be back next Sunday. So till then. My name is Tyriece Simon. This is MMA Renegade Podcast, episode 8.